Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation, and today I've got my friend John Clauser, and we're going to do another rock postcards. How are you, mate?
Doing good, sir. Doing good.
Fantastic.
Doing
So,
good.
the premise of this show is I send John a rock postcard of an album that he needs to review, cover, listen to. He does the same. So, it could be my neck of the woods from Australia, and John does it from the USA. So, in this instance, I sent John a postcard of Cold Chisel Circus Animals from 1982. And in John's instance, he sent me this band, and I don't have the album, but he's got it. Great Tall Stories, the self-titled debut of 1991. So, John, why don't you start off with, we'll talk about Cold Chisel Circus Animals.
Okay. Wow. This I just want to say this album blows my mind that this came out in 1982. It doesn't sound like 1982. Not to me. Now, granted, this is a remaster. This was a 2011 remaster. So I don't know what the original vinyl or cassette sounded like, but my goodness. This just had a booming, wonderful sound for 1982. And when you start off with Jimmy Barnes, great vocalist, by the way. When you start off with that, "You Got Nothing I Want," the first thing that hit me was vocally, it sounded like it kind of had a cross between Bob Seger, Dan McCafferty, or Brian Johnson. That kind of that raspy, soulful feeling kind of thing. It had the soul of Bob Seger, but it had that deep raspiness of Dan McCafferty or Brian Johnson was kind of what came to my mind. Very powerful opener. I think I read that it has some history about snub kind of a snub nose at the record companies. I think I think that's kind of what some of this is about too. But wow, just what a great opening, just a great stomping track. Um, Bow River. This one has it's Ian Moss,
Yeah, the
I believe,
guitarist.
on the guitarist on vocals for this one. Oh wow. This reminded me of a little bit was kind of old school REO Speedwagon on steroids. I don't know why I think REO Speedwagon, but that old style stuff. But man, uh, great track, and I really like Ian's vocals too. It kind of has a uh, I want to say a bit of a Paul Rogers kind of feel sometimes, at least on this
Soulful.
song.
A bit of,
Very soulful.
mhm.
It doesn't have that harsh aggression that Jimmy had on "You Got Nothing I Want." Really good track. I really kind of dug that. I like, and then "Forever Now," you get the soulful reggae kind of feel. I really dug that. That was um, the drummer's Steve Presswich. That was his written it by him. And Jimmy sings on this one, but it's not that harsh vocal again. So you
He,
have
mm,
this nice cleaner vocal, and I was like, "Ooh, this I
he can,
like." No,
he can do it.
he can do it, and it
Yeah.
sounded really. I really thought it was a nice, nice pop rock chorus. I really kind of love that. Love the guitar playing by Ian, and I'll probably say that a lot throughout this whole album. Just amazing guitar player. I really definitely somebody I need to be checking out a little bit more. Uh, Taipan. I love that sexy, seductive groove of that song. Woo, great. And I love the harmonies. I love the harmonies they were getting in that. It's, again, that when Jimmy would do that,
Yeah.
great. Oh man. I thought the whole song, that groove. I love Steve Presswich's groove in that song. I just thought it was just so good. Hound Dog. Again, we got Ian singing on this one. Oh, what a again nasty riff, nasty groove. Definitely not your Elvis. Not your Elvis's hot Hound Dog on this one. That's for sure. Um, let's see. Yeah, just Ian's vocals. I noticed Ian's vocals on this one. I said were seething. So he gets a little angry on this one, which I thought was really cool. And I love that. And I love that nice bridge section in the song. I thought that was really cool. Wild Colonial Boy, I felt like it had a good 60s kind of feel. Again, very amped up, very rocked up. No Good for You, a nice melodic rocker. I really enjoyed that one. Numbers Fall, another to me sexy, seductive, bluesy groove. Ooh, love that stuff. I've been so grooving on this when I've been listening to this. Oh man, how did I not know about this in 1982? When the War is Over, nice ballad. I think that was like the single on this one. Um, to me, this kind of sounded like you could have found this on an April Wine album. I don't know. Again, I guess I've been listening to a lot of April Wine, and I guess I could almost hear them having done this too. So, um, but I thought it was I thought it was actually a lot stronger than some of the April Wine ballads. But I still thought it was a great track. Um, and closing out Letters to Alan, I thought it was a very touching song to start, and then man, it just kicks into overdrive. You know, touching song about a road member. I guess it was killed in a crash, but man, that thing just starts stomping, and you're just rocking and say, you know, our mate is gone, but we're gonna rock out for him this last time. And wow, what an album closer. Uh, man, I have got to check out more by this band. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it just blew my mind that this was recorded in 1982 because it just doesn't to me it just doesn't sound like it. It doesn't it might have a 1982 feel, but it doesn't sound like it was recorded in 1982. And it's just
Timeless.
timeless album, such
Yeah.
a great, definitely the kind of like I think they call this pub rock, you know, with a little bit of soul and a little bit of blues, but there's a good bluesy edge to it. But
Yep.
man, I would be all over the floor on this at a pub if I heard this come up. Great album.
Yeah.
Great album. Really enjoyed this.
Nice review. Nice review. Look, they are somewhat of a deity in Australia. They're like legends.
Yeah.
You know, 8 of their albums have gone to #1. Jimmy Barnes is like a rock icon. I think the thing about this band is the songs hold up. Good
Hmm.
songwriting is timeless, and this
Yes.
is probably their best album. There's a couple
Okay.
of others that are sort of debatable. There's a lot of conjecture, maybe East. I have a soft spot for some of their later albums because they had a bit of a comeback.
Okay.
Don Walker's lyrics are just sublime. He is
Yes.
like of the Bob Dylan class. And I don't say that
I agree.
lightly. He's just does very observational lyrics. They tell stories. Um,
Wonderful stories.
yeah, the songs that really give a shiver up my spine is Forever Now. And it's just a song, a simple song about a love, somebody reflecting on a love that has gone,
Hmm.
and you know, sort of the sadness and the loneliness, you know, of that
Yeah.
person now reflecting on where it was. And it, you know, it just gives you a shiver up the spine, just the
And
lyrics.
and doing it with that soulful reggae feel
Oh, absolutely.
really was perfect for that song.
And
It just
yeah, they never sort of were shy to put a different sort of like reggae. You know, they
hmm
could go from boogie to ball tearing rockers, and then they put a bit of reggae. So they weren't shy to do that. When the War is Over is a great song because the band was a triple threat. You had a
hmm
number of songwriters. You had Ian Moss, great guitarist, Steve Presswich on the
Prestwich,
drums, and
rest
Don
in peace.
Walker. So it was a triple
Well,
threat.
and Jimmy,
Yeah,
Jimmy wrote a couple songs too,
yeah.
but
And talking about
excuse me.
Jimmy, and I've raised this before, Jimmy was rung by Eddie Van Halen. Eddie wanted him to replace David Lee Roth.
Oh
And
wow.
he had a contract with the American record company, and he wanted to go solo
Mm,
and started to write with Jonathan Cain. And they
okay.
did an album for the working class man, and it sort of troubled the lower reaches of the US charts, but it just didn't really. It should have broken big because John, when he was writing those sort of anthem songs, it was really tailor made for the American radio with AOR, but it didn't quite sort of
Didn't get noticed.
transfer through. But he was, Eddie Van Halen.
Wow.
It's all in Jimmy's biography. Was really rang him and pestered him. He wanted him to take the vocals of 5150, and we know how that turned out. Deep Purple,
Yeah.
when they sacked
Yeah.
Ian Gillan, Richie wanted Jimmy Barnes.
Huh.
I don't think that would have worked out.
I have a yeah, because it from what I've read about Jimmy Barnes, he sounds like he could be a bit of a cantankerous person
could be
too.
volatile, but he was highly regarded, Jimmy,
Yeah.
and a lot of bands were looking at him very, very closely. And but they had so many problems with the record company. They did a couple of tours where they were right down the bill. There was an infamous one where they were supporting REO Speedwagon in Boston, and they were like starting the tour at 10 o'clock in the morning. And you know what that's like when you see a band at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, nobody's
And
watching
they trashed
them.
Jimmy trashed the dressing room, and I think he ticked off a few record executives. And there's conjecture
Oops.
that maybe, a lot of record executives, remembered that bad behavior, and maybe the band's papers were marked never to, don't promote this band.
Right.
And there's so many stories about bands, great bands from Australia, that go over to America and they do these special concerts, these A&R concerts, and they stuff up. They do something stupid, or the singer says something to offend somebody, and they return home tail between the legs. And that's just maybe an element. I think there's a whole story about their great bands that just don't make it because they don't schmooze.
Yeah,
But
which is a shame. But I noticed Jimmy's got quite an extensive solo discography.
absolutely huge. But
Wow.
he's a cult artist in the UK, probably a lot of expatriate Aussies, and in America, same bit of a cult. But this album, it's a classic,
It
and it
is.
should,
Yes.
just on the songs alone, should have been a huge hit. But I think that there were a lot of record company impediments, hence the name Circus Animals, because I think that was like a little in joke. This is what we're being treated as, circus
Yeah.
animals.
And I'm like, I just look at this album cover and I'm thinking, ooh, I read the story behind this one. Man, it was a little toasty out there for them to
In
do that photo
in the
shoot.
middle of nowhere.
Oh
And
gosh.
it sort of has that sort of feel of us against the world. And that's what they were, a band of brothers,
Yeah.
us against the world. But live, they were just sensational. They were a major draw card act, and they went up that extra level. So if you do yourself a favor and check out Barking Spiders or
Okay.
Swing Shift, they're the two live albums, and you'll see that they were even a higher notch. But
Now I did see where Steve Prestwich, the drummer, had passed away in 2011, I think it was.
yeah,
Like brain tumor, if I read right.
yeah,
Hmm. Wow, what a shame.
great review. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Well, it's my turn. Tall Stories. So, wow, this is right out of the box. So this came out in 1991, and it came out in the time when, to be fair, melodic rock was on oxygen.
Yeah.
It was on its last legs. A lot of the record companies were not, pushing or promoting this sort of music. It was really grunge. Indie rock was becoming popular, and this was sort of regarded as a sort of type of music that was very much of the previous decade. Personally, when I was listening to this album, it reminded me of another album that I picked up that came out similarly and may or may not be known to viewers, but Glenn Hughes, he had an album called From Now On. And that was
Okay.
like his second comeback album, very melodic, great tasteful guitars. And I was thinking, in 1992 or 1991, if I heard this album, I would probably be into it because it was in that sort of wheelhouse. I like grunge, but I love the melodic. And Yeah, this album, I think the big thing for it is the singer, and that's Steve Augeri. Hope I got the pronunciations right. His voice is sensational. It's a mix
Yes.
between Ray Gillen, bit of John Waits, and Steve Perry. And you can understand why Journey chose him as the
Exactly.
lead vocalist for that run, I think of 6 or 7 years, because he is a
Yeah.
perfect fit.
Yep.
So it's really the Steve or Jerry show. He's, you listen track after track, and you may not like it. Some of it may be on the side of sentimentality and the bit of cheese, but his vocals, they just, grab you in. So the first song is Wild on the Streets, and you listen to it, and it's got the sirens, it's got the screaming, the gunfire, and you go, oh, is this Appetite for Destruction? No, it comes into Steve's vocals and they start soaring. And even though the lyrics are quite anarchic and, about it's just such a big sound, and the production, the music's very upbeat, but it's Steve's vocals that just really soar over it, and that grabs you in. Then you have the second one, Chain of Love, which is a bit mid-tempo, probably not as strong as the first track. Lyrically across the board, it's a little cliched. It's not deep. And that's probably some of the flaws of melodic rock. You don't get too many really Dylan-esque lyrics in a AOR sort of scenario. Like the lyrics of this one is, no weight can break this chain of love, just sing it over and over. It's sort of a love conquers everything, love transcends over everything. But again, it's the vocals of Steve that really sell you on that. So you just got to forgive the lyrics on that one.
Yep.
Next one is Crawling Back. That's a bit of a love redemption song. I love the tone of Jack Mora. He's got great tone.
Yes, he does.
And he does a great little, and I love his outro. Great outros on this album. Soaring vocals, melodic, and his upper register is just sensational, with ease. So you could imagine him in Journey. Not that I've seen any clips or I saw him, he would have just handled those Steve Perry upper register songs with aplomb, and I can see why they selected him. Sister of Mercy, that's one of my favorite songs in the album. It's got a great crunchy riff, and that's what the album probably needs a little bit more down tune, because a lot of it's upbeat. But this one has a little bit of down tune. It's crunchy, and then it goes into a pop rock tune. And I like Steve's vocals. It sort of oscillates between this breathy sort of sensual vocals in the verse, and then with a little bit of urgency, and then it goes into a different sort of register for the chorus. Again, another great lead break from Jack Mora. One thing I want to point out as I'm halfway through it is this is an AOR album, but there are no piano.
No,
there's some songs I'm listening to, and I'm thinking, you normally hear these type of songs and you hear, oh, there's usually a bit of piano, like a Jonathan Cain, but this is one of those rare AOR albums or melodic, where it's all guitar. There's no piano, absolutely, which is a little bit different.
It is different. Now, there are 3 songs that have keyboards on it.
Well, they're buried. They're very much buried.
They're very buried, but yes, there are 3 songs. I had to, because I don't remember that myself, but yeah.
Yeah, it's very different, very different. But that's one of my favorite ones, Sister of Mercy.
Love that track.
Stay With Me. It starts off with a little bit of it's a bit of a ballad, picking riff. It's got the big choruses, very Bon Jovi-esque. And the reason why I mentioned Bon Jovi, he's not one of my favorites, Bon Jovi, but Bon Jovi was one of those acts that were thriving and seemed to be grunge proof when you think about it, because out of all the hair band melodic rock bands, Bon Jovi in the early 90s was still keep on keeping. They were touring the world, getting big audiences. So I'm wondering if these guys were going for that sort of audience, because I think it was probably Journey and Bon Jovi were the only two that in that melodic realm that was still ticking over, but all the rest was sort of dead on arrival.
Yeah, because I think Foreigner even by that point was kind of drifting away.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Stay With Me is very Bon Jovi, probably not one of my favorites. Then we've got Somewhere She Waits, and that's another ballad. It's got an interesting guitar harmonics. So this guitarist, he's got game. He's definitely, he pulls out pulls out the tricks. So it's got a nice little harmonics intro. World Inside You, again, that's got a cracking little riff. It's infectious, it's melodic, it's upbeat. It's a nice song. Restless One. This one is where Steve really sounds like Steve Perry. So if they were listening to this album as an audition tape, they would have thought, okay, he's the guy. Because John, there were some fairly high caliber vocalists that they were looking at when they were going to do this run, but they picked him. So Restless One would have been the song that they would have just sort of zeroed in, and it sounds very much like a Steve Perry. Never Enough, love the tribal drums of DeFaria, and his drumming's very solid. The musicianship on this album is second to none. It's really tight. As I said, big production. It's got a lot of groove, tight, funky groove. And again, I just wrote down great guitar tone all the way through. Jack is, more as a guitar tone. It really is supreme. And then you've got, another thing about Never Enough that I wrote down, it reminds me of, it could have been a track off Extreme Pornography. How do you say it?
Pornograffiti?
Pornograffiti. Yeah, Pornograffiti.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see
it's
that.
got that funk sort of way of that. Then it finishes off with Close Your Eyes. Great harmonies. It's kind of almost a spiritual closer, and his voice is just soaring all the way through. So I enjoyed it. It's not something that is really in my wheelhouse in 2022, but I can appreciate for what it is. And from a muso point of view, the playing is great, but it's the vocalist. I think Steve is the most valuable player on this album, because if you didn't have his vocals, then it probably would sound like a lot of the other sort of melodic rock albums of that era. And John, how do you think this would have gone in 1982, not 1991 or 1992?
I think in 1982, if this had been released, I think it could have done a lot better than it did. I think it could have gotten a lot more notice. But unfortunately, 1991, it even though it was released on a major label, it's released on CBS Epic. It just
on life support.
Just went nowhere.
Yeah.
The story that I've heard is that these guys were all studio musicians in the New York, New Jersey area. And they just got together and they started jamming, and they, like I said, they got the attention of CBS, CBS Epic. I think they even, let me look, because I think they even signed to a manager thing that, who managed them on this? Can't see who their management was. Bud Prager, ESP Management. So I don't know if I seem like ESP Management was a big name at the time. So they obviously got somebody's attention, but it just went nowhere.
Sunk like a stone.
Yeah. Now how I came to hear about this band, and you have to forgive me because I've given you a couple bands now that are like, one was obscure and Warlord, which at least you could listen to that on Spotify or something. But I mean, this poor thing, goodness gracious, I don't even think this is on any streaming services aside from YouTube. So I'm like, oh boy, I gave you a tough one on that one. So I apologize for that.
Absolutely.
but the way I came to know about these guys was, um, they were opening. I had heard Mr. Big was going to be. This is when I was living in the state of Maryland at the time. So Mr. Big was playing at this club up in the Baltimore area called, at the time, was called Hammerjacks. Well-known club. You know, Kicks was big there. Wrathchild America probably played there. You know, a lot of bands came and played there. So now, of course, naive, silly me, you know, thinking, oh, it's just a bar. You just pay cover and you get in. I figured that's all you had to do. I didn't think about them selling tickets.
Hmm.
So anyway, so Mr. Big's playing there, and these guys were the opening
Right.
band.
Right.
And I was like, I wonder who this Tall Stories is. So I picked it up, and we were listening to it actually on the way up to Baltimore to listen to it. And I just absolutely fell in love with the album. So,
Hmm.
so unfortunately, I was like really geared up to see him. And then of course we finally get there and then realize, oh yeah, you know, you needed tickets, or yeah, it's already sold out. So I'm like, didn't think about that in 1991, 92. So
Did you
that
think
was my,
of, was it in a stadium or
no,
where,
it was Hammerjacks is just a bar, just
right.
a small club theater kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just didn't think about it. I mean, no internet, so I had no idea.
Yeah.
So that was my stupidity. But yeah, I was sad that they never came out with a second album anytime soon.
Yeah.
They eventually, it made its way out. I think this came out in 2009. It was released on Frontiers Records. It's called Skyscraper.
God bless you, Frontier Records, keeping
Yes.
the melodic
Yes.
flame alive.
Yes. So I don't know how much of this was. I have to read through the record again to see,
Mm,
because I think some of it was conceived back in the day and then just eventually recorded newer.
mm,
Anyway, but Jack Moore pretty much, he didn't really do anything after that album as far as anything like big time. I think he
yep.
basically just stayed on the club scene and did that thing. The bass player Kevin Totuian, I think is how he says his name. Forgive me, Kevin. He plays in a lot of cover bands, basically in the New York area. Couldn't answer about Tom DeFerry. I haven't watched what he's been up to, so I don't know about him. But um, just one of those bands that, man, these guys should have been big. Um, truth truth be told, I've never picked up the albums with Steve Ojeri on when he got in Journey. I've actually have never heard those albums.
Mm,
There's and they're not something that's talked a lot about.
yep.
You don't hear anybody talking about any of those albums, unfortunately.
Yep.
Seems like I think it seems like they suffer from too much. If I remember correctly, there's a lot of songs on those albums, if I remember correctly, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But
Less is always more
yeah,
sometimes. And that's been
yeah.
a
I
big
mean,
bugbear with me in the CD
yeah,
age that I don't want to hear 20, 10 great songs and 10 average. I like it where it was a record, where it's 10. It's got to be
right.
pretty damn fine to be greater than 10.
I highly agree. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, if for anybody watching this, if you want to check these guys out,
Yeah.
like I said, good luck finding the first one. This might be on streaming services. I don't really
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah.
but man, if you could find it, definitely worth
Absolutely.
checking. Like Peter said, maybe a little dated on the lyrics, because 30 years old.
Yeah.
It is a little dated, but man, you couldn't get a group of four musicians together and
Yep.
make a sound like that.
Absolutely. And as I said, the vocalist, Steve's
Yeah.
vocals are the thing that gets you in. I
Yep.
think that maybe if, there was a little bit more grit in the production, or,
Yeah.
it may have just put the dial a little bit from AOR more to the rock crowd. They may have had a bit of a career, because
Yeah.
it is very, it's sort of on the sweet side, and it's got that pop. The way the production is, you've got the triple tracking, the double tracking of the vocals. As I said, it's very Bon Jovi-esque and Journey, but maybe if they tried to do a little bit more down tuning or a little bit more grit, the dial might have been more in the rock crowd, and they would have, like Bees and Honey, it would have attracted more of a rock
Yeah.
audience.
And now I know this one was produced by Frank Filippetti. So and I know I should know his name, and I know he's done a lot of different stuff, just not coming to me at the moment. But maybe he had just had that kind of sound, and maybe I don't know. But I agree,
Yeah.
maybe some grit extra. Now I think now that's where this one comes in. I do believe this has a little bit more grit to it in some of the songs,
Yep.
but this definitely picks up where the self-titled left off.
Absolutely. And look, there are so many bands that were didn't even get their records released, John.
No,
And you probably will
no,
see those albums through boutique labels like Rock Candy or Frontier Records. And some of them, you know, I buy, and you read the liner notes, and it's just so interesting. This record never got released, and you just read the stories and the struggles that these bands had.
yeah,
Like they're signed to this major label in 1990, and they have the world in front of them, and 2 years later they're back working at Walmart. You know, their
yep.
dreams have crashed,
Well,
all because of the shift in musical tastes.
well, and
Many
that's how Journey,
stories.
that's how Journey found Steve Augeri. They basically he was working at a Gap store, I think it was. you know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Thanks, mate. As
yeah, man.
always,
Thank you.
you're on the game. I really love these little postcards,
I
and
do
we'll do
too.
another one. You know, I
Yeah,
love these exchanges across the world, and just sort
yeah,
of
it's good
thinking, what's
stuff.
the next one I'm going to do?
Yeah, I know. I gotta think. It's like I gotta come up with something that's not quite so obscure.
No, I like it. I like it. Check out John's channel, My Music Corner. He's got heaps of content, really fantastic stuff. Show him some love.
Thank you.
Please like and subscribe. Please subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. We've got plenty of stuff coming. I'm not going to rattle it off, but just check it out on YouTube, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.